I think the AFC South is quickly turning into one of the most fun divisions in the entire NFL. First of all, you have three super young, super uber talented top 5 pick quarterbacks who are balling right now in Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud, and one in Anthony Richardson who was balling this year before he got hurt, and I expect really big things for the future. You have four, I repeat, four good to great head coaches in this division, two of which are rookies in their first season ever being the head coach of a team. And I think this division is going to have a lot of people entertained for years to come. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike, and I'm here to recap all of the events of Week 12, go over them with you. I thought this was a pretty good week of NFL football. We had some really good games. I would argue we had the game of the year this week. I'm just going to give you guys the events and put the old D-Fran spin on things, you know what I'm saying? But before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Be like super cool Christmas gift. And I also want you guys to comment, what was your biggest takeaway from Week 12 of this NFL season? Now, starting off with the Thanksgiving games, early on we had the Packers versus the Lions. Now, this game did not go the way a lot of people expected, myself included. I bet on the Lions to cover. Not only did they not cover, they kind of shit the bed and totally lost to Green Bay. Now, I think it's becoming a bit of a concerning theme for the Lions that Jared Goff's turnovers have kind of reared their ugly head as of late, right? Through a few picks in the Bears game, and he kind of gave away the game against Green Bay, to be honest with you. I mean, there was a lot of plays that I think helped the Packers on the behalf of Jared Goff. And the Packers, Jordan Love, he looked pretty good, right? He did. And is that he's finally looking comfortable in the Matt LaFleur offense, or is that Detroit's defense is very suspect? Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both, but good for the Packers. They keep themselves in the NFC playoff contention range, I guess you could say, and maybe they can go ahead and sneak into that 6th or 7th wildcard spot. For the next Thanksgiving game, we had the Washington Commanders going up against the Dallas Cowboys, and this goes like a typical Dallas Cowboys game does when they go up against a subpar team, not named the Arizona Cardinals. They mollywopped them. They really did. Their defense scored 7 points and allowed 10. You're not going to win very many games when your point differential is, +3 on offense, right? You're not going to do that. Sam Howell, I still think that he can be that guy, but he needs to improve his pocket presence a little bit. And obviously, there's not a great matchup going up against the Cowboys, but some of those decisions were very suspect, especially I think the interception to Deron Bland, who is, by the way, having a sneaky contention year for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, this guy is he's got more touchdown receptions than a lot of receivers. Truthfully. So I think that he's in Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Now, in terms of the offense, and Dak might be in the MVP conversation. He has really had a very quality year this year. I think what could solidify it for him is good games against some high-quality opponents. He's still got to play the Eagles later on in the year. I think that's going to be a big game, not only for the division, but for any MVP chances. If he can have a few good games against some good teams in prime time, which he has this week in Seattle on a Thursday night game, is going to have a national audience. I think we could see Dak Prescott in that conversation for MVP. I mean, he's deserved it so far. And then for the last Thanksgiving game, unfortunately, shit happens. Shit happens, man. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever. I don't really care that much. It's whatever. Mid! But no, the 49ers proved that they are definitely still one of the top dogs in the NFC. Absolutely bent the Seahawks over. I'm going to have a whole rant about that later on this week. I'm going to save my thoughts about the Seahawks and their future for Thursday's video, which will be kind of a Thursday night preview, but also kind of like a Seahawks fan rant. You guys will get it. You guys will see when you get there. But yeah, the 49ers are that team. Whoever thought the Seahawks were going to be able to win the West, good luck. That ain't happening. Not this year. So we'll try for 2024, I guess. All right, and then we did have a Black Friday game, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't really know how I feel about a 3 p.m. Friday game for the NFL. I didn't love it. I honestly forgot the game was on. I was at the gym, and I was just like, oh, shit, the game's on. I wasn't even, aware of it. And it wasn't really a good game either. The Jets are throwing out maybe the worst starting quarterback in the history of the National Football League in Tim Boyle, who wasn't even good in college, probably wasn't good in high school, probably didn't even play quarterback. With the way he's playing, but unfortunately it was just a no contest. I mean, Dolphins, they didn't even play particularly well, and they still just slammed the Jets, who have just an all-time terrible quarterback situation going on right now. And by the way, we're going to talk about the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a terrible GM. right? Every player that he wanted and that he brought in has been awful. Alan Lazard is a healthy scratch. Randall Cobb is doing nothing. Billy Turner, the tackle, is one of the worst tackles in the NFL. Nathaniel Hackett, the OC, is still bad. It's just not a good year for the Jets. I mean, you kind of knew that when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles early on, before he even threw a pass, really. But it's not their year, and that's unfortunate. Getting into some of the Sunday games, there were a few noteworthy games. Some of them kind of, faded in the background, kind of whatever, just kind of throw them on red zone. But there were actually some interesting games, some interesting storylines. One of those games that I want to talk about is the Giants versus Patriots. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. The Giants versus Patriots, which 2 times in the past 20 years have faced off in the Super Bowl. And this year they faced off in the Tank Bowl, which is arguably even more significant given that Caleb Williams is right on the horizon. Just kidding. But this game for fans was a total draft war position. Who was going to get the higher draft pick? Who was going to get Drake May, so to speak, right? And this was the ugliest, grimiest, sloppiest, sludgiest, whatever acronym you want to use. Synonym. I could speak English, I promise. Whatever synonym you want to use, it was. When you have Tommy DeVito as the superstar of the game, that kind of tells you a lot. And as an Italian man myself, I have to root for Tommy DeVito. I'm legally obligated to do so. But I mean, let's be real. He's not that guy, and he's not who I want to watch when I'm relaxing on a Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock. But the important thing about this game is that the Giants won. The Giants, who were one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, without Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor for probably the rest of the year, are kind of looking for the draft. And for them to win a game like this against the Patriots, who are also in kind of their same draft position, is detrimental. It really is detrimental because you're not going anywhere this year. And, I know that teams don't tank. I know that's not a thing that, every coach is like, well, I hope we lose. No, but at the same time, as a fan, it's a very easy thing to look to the future and look to the draft and be like, damn, that they shouldn't have won that game. Bill Belichick might not be the coach of the Patriots next year. That'll be very interesting to keep an eye on. But that game was a big draft, selection indicator. And whichever team ends up picking higher, I think we can look back at that game several years down the line and say that was it right there. All right, another game I want to talk about. Perhaps, in my opinion, I'm just going to be real here. I think this was the game of the year. Eagles versus the Bills. Rainy, sloppy weather, and it's just guys that got it done, right? Jalen Hurts did not have a good first half. Completely turned it around the second half, threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown, the winner in overtime. I'm sorry, I think he ran for 2 touchdowns, actually. I think he scored 5 total. The guy's a baller. He really is. And again, when you're back against the wall, bad conditions, you've not been playing great. I mean, he just found ways to make plays down the stretch. And for the Bills, you're sitting at 6-6 right now. You're like the 10th seed in the AFC. This is a disaster season. This is completely a disaster season if you're the Buffalo Bills. I think the only thing you can do is regroup in the offseason, hope to get healthier next year, and kind of figure it out with Josh Allen. Keep some of your core pieces. They're projected, I saw on Twitter today, to have negative $29 million in cap space. They're going to have to do some roster overhaul stuff to figure it out next year, but I don't think that I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs this year, which sounds insane. It really does sound insane to say the Bills do not make the playoffs, but when you look at their roster, they have holes at a lot of places. They still don't have a consistent number 2 wide receiver. Their defense is kind of falling apart, and that could be due to injuries as well. But I think their pass rush lacks juice, if that's the right word. I think their secondary is really banged up, especially with Tre'Davious White having 2 recent season-ending injuries. I think they need to reinvest in corner soon. It's just a tough year for the Bills. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but regroup in the offseason. You still have Josh Allen. That's the most important thing in the NFL, is to have your quarterback. They still have that. And honestly, I thought he played really well. He made a few mistakes, unfortunately. I thought the Bradbury interception really got the Eagles back into the game. And then at the end in overtime, I don't know if he missed Gabe Davis or Gabe Davis missed the route, or if it was a miscommunication or what it was. And then, of course, the Eagles just drove all the way down the field and scored that touchdown. So it's just hard. But I thought that was a great game. Jake Elliott, man, ball's a fucking steal. I mean, a 59-yarder in the pouring rain. That guy's a certified dog, right? That was awesome. And then another game, a Sunday night game that I had really high hopes for. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the primetime games this year have been very disappointing. Ravens versus Chargers. I was expecting a shootout, to be completely honest with you. I thought the Ravens defense, which had been playing really good, would have a tough time with Justin Herbert, and they contained him well. And on the other side, I thought, hey, the Chargers defense has been bad all year, and Lamar Jackson is, an MVP caliber player. I think he's going to have a day. He really didn't. He really didn't have a day. It was 20-10, 30 total points. Justin Herbert was pretty much shut out for the whole game until he had scored a touchdown late in the game. There was not a lot of excitement in this game other than a late Zay Flowers touchdown. The Ravens defense continues to just suffocate people, but their offense is kind of inconsistent. Their offense is kind of inconsistent, and I know, I'm poisoned by the fantasy football perspective, but Lamar Jackson's numbers aren't that good this year. They're really not. I would have expected a little bit more. So we'll have to see how that goes for the Ravens, but up until this point, I still think that they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think their offense needs to pick it up just a little. And then I'm going to end with the game that just concluded about 30 minutes ago, the Bears versus the Vikings. That was an ugly, ugly game of football. I think the Josh Dobbs hype is going to come back down to earth a little bit. He was not good in this game. Now, I understand there were a few really unlucky bounces, but just some bad decisions, some missed throws. I mean, he had, Jordan Addison streaking down the left sideline. That should have been a touchdown. He, really overthrew it too much to the left. And, I thought Jordan Addison should have caught it in bounds, but that should have been an easy touchdown. Just a lot of mistakes. I think on the behalf of Josh Dobbs, he got baited more than once by Jalen Johnson. Fortunately, Jalen Johnson kind of has brick for hands, so it wasn't able to be intercepted every time. And yeah, it was just kind of a rough showing. Now, on the other side for the Bears, not exactly impressed with the Bears either. Their defense, actually, I will say, their defense, for the first time, maybe in the Matt Eberflus era, I thought the defense actually balled the fuck out. Montez Sweat is making a legitimate difference on the defensive line, not just from his production, but I think he's helping the rest of the defensive line, which I think a lot of elite pass rushers, he looked like an elite pass rusher yesterday. This night. He really, really did. So shout out to Montez Sweat, shout out to the DBs, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Jalen Johnson. They were making plays. TJ Edwards was flying around. I saw Tremaine Edmonds making some TFLs. Like, the defense was great. The offense wasn't, and it was really bad. Like, it just wasn't good. DJ Moore is like the only option on offense. And I truthfully still don't know if Justin Fields is the guy, right? He had 2 late fumbles in the fourth quarter. He missed a lot of reads. He missed a lot of throws in this game. And again, you're looking at a Bears team that is probably going to have the first overall pick in this year's draft. If they are not, 1,000% certain that Justin Fields is the guy, they should not hesitate to take Caleb Williams first overall. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Bears do. And assuming the Panthers, suck dick and balls for the rest of the year, which they probably will because they fired every single coach on their staff this morning. It'll be interesting, but that's kind of my Week 12 recap. If there's anything important I missed, let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear your opinions, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm signing out. I'll see you tomorrow.